There it is. It is installing the package, or actually creating the package.json. Here we have to use the keyword async. Okay, that's important. Assertion is gonna start with a wait too, and as you're gonna see, there it is. It happens so quickly, but as you can see, it was capable to check that the login with valid credentials is working fine. Hey masters, welcome back to JoanMedia. Welcome back to another automation video. Today we're gonna start working and learning about Webdriver IO. This framework is a very interesting one because, as you can see over here, we can test modern web applications, we can test hybrid or native mobile applications, and this is important, right? And well, we also have native desktop applications that, well, if they are written in Electron.js, for example, we can test it as well. So I'm gonna explore this framework. If you have some idea, if you have some kind of feedback, I'll be more than glad to hear about you, cause so we can help us together and well build some knowledge among us, right? That's important. So as you can see in the description, in the official documentation, they say that Webdriver is a progressive automation framework built to automate modern web and mobile applications, and well, it simplifies the interaction with your app and provides a set of plugins that help you to create a scalable, robust, and stable test suite. That's important. If we take a look of the getting started documentation, here we have the command to install Webdriver IO, right, which is npm init Webdriver IO, and this dot, which actually means the root directory where we are going to be installing the framework, right? Then we have here some advices to run our tests, right, as this one, and also we can send some parameters by the command line interface, and also here we have some advices to run a script in more detail. The system requirements is basically to have Node.js installed, right? And well, that's basically what the only thing that we are gonna need to start working on this. Well, the Node.js is this well, it is an execution environment for JavaScript, right? So please download the LTS version because it's the stable one, or if you wanna, well, actually experiment or test the latest one, is okay too, right? And as you can see over here, I have this documentation here that discuss the synchronous versus asynchronous mode in Webdriver IO. I've seen a lot of videos where they try to teach a bit about the synchronous mode. However, the synchronous mode will not be supported anymore, starting from Node.js version 16 due to changes in Chromium. So in these videos, we're gonna be working on async mode. I'm sorry. Yep. If you come here to the official documentation, that I highly recommend you, right? You're gonna see some common issues in async mode and this kind of stuff. It is important to come here and take a look of that. Well, to start working in this, I'm gonna open up my Visual Studio Code, which is the code editor that I'm gonna be using. It is okay if you wanna use any other one, it's totally okay. And here I'm gonna be opening my terminal. Here in the terminal, well, I'm gonna start running my command npm init wdio, and then the dot, which means this directory, basically, right? So there it is. It is installing the package, or actually creating the package.json with some basic information, probably, right, with some information about Webdriver IO and this project. And then we're gonna have a kind of wizard over here, which is gonna allows us to choose the test framework, which services we want to install. If we want to set that reporter, we're gonna have a lot of possibilities here. As you can see, well, it is actually asking us where is your automation backend located. In this case, we can set actually configure on my local machine. If we're using cloud, we can do it too, but in this case it's in my local machine, right? Which framework do you want to use? Well, for this video, right, and the first ones, I'm gonna be using Mocha. However, please let me know if you wanna see about Jasmine and Cucumber. For sure we can take a look at that, but in this case I'm gonna start with Mocha. well, then we have the option to use a compiler, right? The compiler, in this case, I'm gonna be using TypeScript. If you don't want to use it, it is okay. Or if you wanna try Babel, it is okay too. But I'm gonna be using TypeScript. In this case, and the very first video is not gonna have a difference between TypeScript and JavaScript. But if you like the idea too, please let me know that in the comments. But I plan to do, or actually implement, the same strategies using TypeScript and JavaScript, so we can see the differences. And well, if you like the idea, I can do it for sure. So then I can choose where my test specs are gonna be located, right? In this case, I am gonna be using the default one, which is gonna be under test specs, and then, well, this is the structure, right? So I'm gonna click enter. Well, actually, Webdriver IO allows us to auto-generate some test files, just to have or actually give us a kind of introduction of how you can structure your tests, right? In this case, if you want to do it, it is okay, but since this is a kind of learning video, I'm gonna well, actually enter n as no, right? And I'm gonna try to, well, code step by step with you, so we can learn together what is happening actually, right? So I'm gonna enter no, it is fine, and then we can look for a reporter, right? We can use the spec, which is the default one. Actually, we can use JUnit, Allure, Consist, we can use JSON, Cucumber, Mocha Awesome, and so on, right? In this case, I'm gonna be using the default one, the spec. And if in a future, for sure, we can take a look of the Allure one, for example, the Allure, or any other one. So please let me know also in the comment section what you want to see in the future. I'm gonna press enter right there, and then we can add a service, right? Basically, the service is gonna be like the environment, or where we are gonna be executing our test scripts. As you can see, we have the Chrome driver, we have Sauce Labs, we have Selenium standalone, we have browser stack, we have Appium, Firefox, and so on. For this introduction video, we're gonna be using Chrome driver, but in the next one, probably I'm gonna be using Selenium standalone, because it is gonna allow us to well, run our test in any WebDriver that we have in our computer, and we're not gonna have to handle the installation or the storage of the WebDrivers. It is going to be set automatically, and we can run our test in parallel. That's important. So I'm going to be using Chrome driver over here, and then it is going to ask us for the base URL. In this case, I'm going to be using localhost by default, and then as you can see, it is going to be installing the Webdriver IO packages, and it is going to take a few seconds, but it is in progress. Well, if we take a look of the package.json, you're gonna see that right now it only has the Webdriver IO dependency, but probably in a few seconds you're gonna see a few of them more, right? As you can see, now we have the local runner, the Mocha framework, the spec reporter, and the Chrome driver already in our computer. We have the TypeScript and TS Node and the Chrome driver service. Okay, so as you can see right here, we have our package.json, and we can continue with the next part of this video, which is going to be create our very first test, right? So I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna create a folder, right? And if you remember correctly, I said that I wanted to store my tests under the folder test, and it has a structure, right? Let's take a look at that in the Webdriver IO conf.ts, right? This configuration file has a lot of information that we have to know and we have to handle, but as you can see, this is pointing, the specs parts is pointing to this structure over here. So I can do it over here. I'm gonna create a folder which is gonna be test. Under test is gonna be specs, right? And then I'm gonna create, for example, the let's imagine that I want to call this the tests or scripts, right? And then we can create a new test under the folder tests, right? And let's imagine that I want to call this login. Let's see, login test dot TS, I'm sorry, because this is TypeScript, right? And now, as you can see, we're matching this pattern over here. It is gonna be looking under every single folder under specs. However, well, if I want to be specific, I can, well, use the tests or actually the test folder over here, right? Tests. But I'm gonna be, well, using double asterisk, so it is gonna be exploring under every single folder that I have under the specs ones. Okay, it is fine. So let's continue with the structure of a test here in TypeScript and Webdriver IO. Actually, if you followed my videos on Cypress, we're gonna be using Mocha, right? So we have to start our suite using a describe, right? That's important. And well, I'm gonna call this simple login test, for example, right? Then we're gonna be using an arrow function here, where we're gonna contain the its and the before and the hooks, right? Let's create our very first it in Webdriver IO. Let's imagine that this test has to be named something like should login with valid credentials, right? And this is important, and this is a difference if we compare this with Cypress. I think that Test Cafe is pretty similar, but here we have to use the keyword async. Okay, that's important. And then, well, we can continue with the arrow function, and inside of this now we can play around with the commands that Mocha, or actually I'm sorry, Webdriver IO has. So the structure is gonna be something like this. We have to use the keyword await at the beginning of the command, and then we can use, for example, the browser command, then set the URL, and here, right, as a string, we can set the string that we want to use. In this case, I want to use the saucedemo.com website, which is popular in this channel, right? I use it a lot, but it is to keep things simple. Okay, I'm gonna paste it over here, and now it is gonna be like a driver.get or a cypress.open. Now it is gonna be capable to open a browser, and we're gonna be capable to get or actually visit this website with this command. Okay, then we can do some more stuff over here. Let's imagine that I want to actually type the username and password, right? So the structure is gonna be something like this. We have to use the dollar symbol at the beginning of this command, and then we can use different kind of selectors. Okay, let me take a look of the official documentation over here, because it is important. If you see the guides and the selectors, let's take a look of this. Please note that even though the command to query elements is called $sign or double dollar signs, they have nothing to do with jQuery or the Sisal selectors engine. So it's kind of a known kind of algorithm, right, or a known procedure to handle the selectors, but it is not the jQuery one or this other engine over here, right? So have that in mind. We can use CSS selectors. We have a lot of different options here. So please let me know in the comment section if you want to see more about selectors, because I think that I can create a video for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna be using CSS selectors, which is the one that I can use over here. Actually, I think that I can use XPath too, but I'm gonna start with CSS. It's pretty simple. I'm gonna inspect the username input. I can look for the ID, right? So I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna place a dollar, actually a number sign at the beginning of the selector, and then, well, the value of the selector itself, right? Then I can use the command for Webdriver IO to type into an input, right? We can use this one, which is set value. With set value, you just have to send the value that you want to use, and if you know this website, here we have the accepted credentials, the standard user and the secret sauce. So I'm gonna send a standard user. I'm gonna copy this command because it's pretty simple, or actually similar, for the password. Okay, so I'm gonna look for the ID, which is password. I'm gonna change it over here. I'm gonna delete the E and the value is gonna be different, right? Secret sauce. That's basically it. Now that I have entered the username and the password, I wanna click on the button, right, on the login button to check that this is working fine. So I'm gonna inspect the login button. I'm gonna look for the ID, and I'm gonna, well, do the same stuff here. I'm gonna do an await. I'm gonna use the $sign here, right? And I'm gonna look for this ID, login button. And instead of set value, because now we have to click, well, we can use the click method, which is, well, click. That doesn't have a lot of difficult stuff, right? And then, well, I want to make some assertions. Also, I want to do an assertion video, because every single framework has its differences, right? And here you're gonna notice some of them, right? Well, the assertion is gonna start with a wait 2, and well, it is gonna use the expect structure 2, right? And I'm gonna look for an element after I am logged in my application, right? So let's imagine that I enter standard user, then I enter the password, and well, I want to make sure that this title, this span with the class title is present, right? It's actually exists in the DOM. And then let's take a look if it has the products word, right? Just to I know that this is a silly a silly test, but it gives us a bit of well, I think that context, right, about how it works. So I'm gonna use the class title to find the element, and then we can use some assertion here, which is, for example, to be existing, right? And then we have to call it the function, and that's how you're gonna validate if an element is actually or exists in the DOM or not, right? Then let's imagine that I want to test the content, right, as I told you. So I'm gonna actually grab the same selector, right, and I wanna check if it has the products text inside of this particular selector. So I'm gonna use the assertion to have let's see, to have text we can use to have text or to have text containing. I'm gonna use the second one in this case, and I'm gonna look to see, I'm gonna see if it has the products as a text, right? So I think that we are all set. Let's see if I'm recording. I am. And well, I think that it is time to run our test. This is the funny part, right? To run our test. Let me take a look at my notes here to check how we can run this. It's pretty easy, right? As you can see, we have let's take a look at the framework structure until this point. We have the test.ts, right, which means basically a TypeScript file, right, with all the structure using Mocha. We describe it. Here we have some basic commands. Let's also take a look that we need the async await mode in order to well, to perform different actions, right? And it's important to have that in mind. Also, well, by default here we're using a CSS selector to, well, interact with the website, and then we're doing some assertions here. So I'm gonna close this test, and I'm gonna then click on webdriverio.conf.ts, and as you can see here we have specified the specs that I want to run, right? But also we have the capabilities part, and as you can see, it is actually pointing to Google Chrome, and the max instances is about 5. It means that we can run our tests in Chrome or in 5 different Chromes at a time. If you want to increase this number or decrease it, you are allowed to do it. And well, we can send actually some parameters here too if we want to change some capability, if you want to use Firefox or other web browser. As I'm telling you, we're gonna be using probably the Selenium service. I don't remember. Let's see about that. How is the name of the thing that I want to show you the next video? It is Selenium standalone service. This is the service that I wanna show you because it facilitates a lot the work that you have to do, and you will see you're gonna handle, or you're gonna love actually this service. So let's go ahead and let's execute the test script that we have over here, right? Let's do it. That's basically the structure that it is going to have is basically npx wdio, right? And then we have to use the word run, right? And then we have to specify the test runner file, which in this case is wdio .conf.ts. And if I am not wrong, it should open up right here the Chrome driver, and as you're gonna see, there it is. It happens so quickly, but as you can see, it was capable to check that the login with valid credentials is working fine. And if we check, for example, I changed the password, right? So it is gonna fail. You're gonna see that probably it is not gonna work, because obviously it is not gonna find the product's title, and it is not in the DOM right here, right? So that's basically how it works, Webdriver IO. This is a kind of introduction, but I hope that we can learn more about this in a future video. So please subscribe if you find this useful. Let me know if what do you want to cover in this framework, and see you in the next one. Thank you very much for your support, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.